All right, are we live?
We are live.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Edmonds Highway 99 area Community Renewal Planning Project. So this is our kickoff night to really start focusing on issues in a new way for Highway 99 area. And we're going to have on our agenda several things, but let me start off with introducing Mayor Nelson, who will talk just a little bit, and then there will be a chance for some of us department directors at the City of Edmonds to share a little bit with you about what we're doing related to Highway 99 area. Mayor Nelson.
Thank you, Shane. And sounds like we have children in the background somewhere, and I'm outside, so you may hear some wind. I apologize. I want to take advantage of this final cool down that we have. But I just want to say thank you very, very much for coming tonight to meet with us virtually. We hope next time to meet with you all in person. And this is really, really your opportunity to share with us, the city, and our special consultants here to help us as we try to look at a way that we can make Highway 99 more livable and address some of the concerns we've been hearing lately. And I know that concerns that some residents have been expressing for many, many years, long before I was even in elected office, about some of the challenges we're facing in Highway 99 and whether there are abandoned buildings or areas that are, you feel not safe in, and areas that are, places that we can invest more in to make it more livable, more welcoming. So really want to hear from you. We're really focusing on the southern portion for that, but what this will allow us to do, this plan, this community renewal plan, is the first step in a series of steps that legally will allow us as a city to do unique things down the road, those including public-private partnerships, and also, like I said, more investments and things to really kind of help, and I don't want to say revitalize, but I want to, what we can do to make it more livable and more welcoming community. And so anyway, enough of that. Looking forward to hearing from all of you, and thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight, let me introduce some of the department directors that have a role in the Highway 99 area. So I'm Shane Hope. I'm the Development Services Director, and I was helpful in working with many of the community members to develop a great plan and new standards for development that have allowed some revitalization of the area through that Highway 99 plan from several years back. And that what that does is provide for long-term planning and development and keeping open space for the area, those kinds of things. But now we're working on some short-term, midterm issues to respond to some of the concerns that people have raised and also some of the possibilities. So with that, let me turn to Patrick Doherty from Community Services and Economic Development.
Yeah, good evening, folks. As Shane said, I'm Patrick Doherty, and as my long title suggests, Community Services and Economic Development is really also a companion to planning and development services in helping build community and transform this part of our city that historically has seen the least investment and the least level of community, both private and public investment. And so economic development, as the name implies, is about both bringing jobs and investment to the community, but also about helping build community, because once a community really is a fully functioning, thriving unit, which what we want it to be, even more so than it is now, that really engenders even more economic vitality. So that's my role in this process, and looking for opportunities once we get to the end, towards the end of the implementation planning process, to really bring in some investment and bring more jobs, more housing, more commercial to the corridor.
Very good. Thank you, Patrick. And Angie Fisser from our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural, and a lot other long names department. Angie.
Great. Thank you, Director Hope. Angie Fesser, Director of Parks, Recreation, Cultural Services, and Human Services Department. You almost had it, Shane. Just would like to say that our department is working on our strategic plan. It's called the Parks, Recreation, Open Space Plan, called the PROS plan for short. And we update that every 6 years. And we truly believe that everyone in the community plays a really important role in the planning process. And we want to hear from you, every resident in the community, about what you would like to see in your park system, your recreation programs, and what your community, you would like to see in your community to have a more welcoming environment. We have a very concerted effort this year around languages that our materials and our meetings and current survey is actually produced in 4 different languages. So English, Korean, Chinese, and Spanish. And we're working very diligently to start to build some relationships in the communities around Highway 99, and very much interested in that. Currently there's a survey available. You can find links to that in those 4 languages on the city's website in the Parks Department. And feel free to tie into that. We, have some interest in supporting efforts in programming in Mathey Ballinger Park, as well as the interurban trail. We recognize could probably use a little more attention as far as maintenance and development as well. But we would love to hear from you about your comments or questions or concerns about the park system and recreation programming along Highway 99.
Thank you, Director Fester. Now we have, if she's available, Michelle Bennett, and forgive the misspell there on the screen, but Michelle Bennett, who's our acting police chief. However, she may have been called out and not able to attend tonight. So let's give her a brief second to join in. Otherwise, we'll move to the next person. All right. Sorry about that, but I'm sure she'll be involved further in this project as well. Next, we have Bill Williams, Director of Public Works.
Hi, and thank you. Public Works as a department has a pretty sizable role in this remaking of, the appearance and function of Highway 99. When the land use plan, the new land use plan was put together up there, we followed that with a planning process to figure out what is needed in terms of a new transportation system to match that land use plan, which we've now done. We've broken it into about 7 major projects up there. The first is well underway now. We're getting close to completing the design of it, and it will be built in 2022. It's about a $9 million project, and it is fully funded. And it should be built entirely in one construction season next year. And that is the construction of a median down the length of our frontage on Highway 99 that is primarily foremost a safety project. We have a lot of accidents, a very high accident rate up on Highway 99, and a lot of those are people turning left from the center turn lane across 2 lanes of busy traffic trying to access a driveway. And we have a lot of high angle collisions, very serious collisions up there. This project will mostly resolve that. And then the second 2 projects, I won't go into all of them. The one to follow that will be a race between a project on the very south end where the community renewal plan is focused, which would provide the frontage improvements down there and kind of hit the reset button on what the infrastructure looks like on Highway 99 on the south end, again, to match the hoped for land use future that we see coming there now. And then the third project in this whole sequence would be a focus on this corridor between 224th and 220th, where we still are plagued with very high levels of accidents from people turning out of driveways onto or into Highway 99. And that will also be justified primarily from a safety perspective. So those are 3 big projects. The $9 million project is the smallest of the 3. The next one will be close to 30 million. We have the money necessary to do the design and right-of-way phase, and then followed on that, we'll seek the funding for construction. And we have also about $2.5 million set aside for the third project that I mentioned, again, to get that through design. So we're really making progress on Highway 99 from a transportation point of view. Utilities will also be upgraded during those projects when we execute them.
Thank you, Director Williams. So a lot of focus on this area of Edmonds, which we're very proud of, and we appreciate the folks who are participating tonight. Next, we'll hear from the consultant team, and then you're going to have a chance to have some exercises where public input is part of the process. So take it away. We've got the Fregonese Associates as our consultant team on this project.
Thank you, Shane. I'll introduce myself. I'm Scott Fregonese. Lucky enough to be selected to be the consultant to work with the city staff and all the public and hopefully join this meeting. I also have Cassandra Dobson, who works with me. She's on the project as well. She'll be helping out with tonight's presentation and polling. I was actually lucky enough to work on the previous planning effort. You might have heard some of the directors talk about that in their introductions, but that sub-area plan and zoning map and updated development code was done back in about 2017, I think, and our firm led that. So I have a lot of familiarity with the area. Hopefully some of the public that is with us tonight was involved in that planning effort and will continue to be in this one. So I view this as really an implementation and a further implementation of that plan, and more focus, as we mentioned, on that southern area. Again, you've heard that Public Works is doing some design work and development, a lot of investment in transportation infrastructure in the area, and the parks plan that's ongoing. You heard about. I think it's going to be really important for all three of these kind of efforts to be done together and coordinated. So we're going to do our best to coordinate the outreach and the timing as best we can as we move through this. If you're familiar with that plan that was done in 2017, we kind of identified 3 districts. Up in the north, we called it the health district. It was mostly because the hospital and a large amount of medical facilities were up there. So that was dubbed the medical district or the health district. Kind of the middle area was the international district, and that's due to its diverse restaurants, groceries, also the Korean business district that's in the area. Finally, the Gateway District is that southern area, and that's kind of generally the area that we're looking at in terms of the community renewal plan. We haven't defined the exact boundary yet, but really looking at that, we're gonna lose the term Gateway District, and we're gonna kind of look at some input from you all in terms of what we start calling this area, rather than just Highway 99. If that's fine too, that will work moving forward. So this is what was identified in that 2017 plan. The study area you're looking at now is kind of that southern area. Again, not defined, so we're kind of generalizing it with a circle at this point. We will define it as we move forward. One of the things that I'm going to present tonight is some demographics. So I want to point out that these census tracts, 507, 508, and 509, are really the ones that are in the city and some unincorporated part of the county as well, but that we're really focusing on in terms of demographics that I'm going to go over tonight. I should mention that the presentation is going to include just some background in terms of what is the existing conditions from census data. We're going to do a couple of some instant polling questions where you'll all get to answer questions. And then to finish it off, we'll do a question and answer session if anyone has any specific questions that they want us to address. In terms of project objectives, I think, we need to have a process that's centered on real, meaningful, and inclusive public engagement. That's why we do these types of meetings. I'm hoping that the next event we have in the fall, we will actually get to do in person. The picture you're seeing on the slide is from the 2017 plan, where we actually got to have people in a room together. It was wonderful. So hopefully we get to do that again soon. Another important part of this plan and objective would be to satisfy the requirements of the community renewal law. So there's some real specific things that need to be addressed as part of this process that are state law. And then strategies and actions for short and medium term solutions. So this is not a long-term visioning plan. That's kind of what we did, previously. This is what we need to do now, and what investments can we make that are really going to move the area forward in terms of that livability and place that people want to be and live and work. And then obviously create that implementation framework that encourages ongoing communication and collaboration. I think it's going to be really important. It's been difficult in the last one, just frankly, in the last process to get everyone inclusively involved. And I think part of this process is to try and get this grassroots momentum of a group that can continue once this planning effort is complete. Some of the neighborhood partners we're looking to engage are culturally specific groups, churches and faith-based groups, neighborhood groups and business associations. So if anyone has ideas or has groups that they want specific meetings for or information, we'd love to hear that from you all and get us tied into those groups so we can bring them into this process as well. So here's the demographic snapshot. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. And, you know, we didn't necessarily draw any conclusions from this, but I just wanted to present some of the basics in terms of demographics for the area. So I'm remembering these tracks again, 507, 508, and 509 as we go through this. But in terms of age, it's pretty interesting. And this goes through kind of most of the demographics, but in terms of your median age, you're 46. But the study area and the state are very similar at about 38. And you can actually see the state and the study area in terms of under 18 and 18 to 34 are very similar. So it's interesting in age, you're looking at very similar to the statewide and county for those three census tracts. Another interesting thing to point out is that census tract 508 is the oldest in terms of average, still less than your average citywide, but 509 is quite young at 32, which is well below the state and county average. Looking at race and ethnicity, the study area, again, really matches the state well. I was pretty surprised when this showed up, but in terms of the city, it's a little different. It's probably not surprising to you all to see that. But in terms of the study area, you're about 68% white, 13% Hispanic, 9% Asian, 2% Pacific Islander, 2% Black, and 2% other. So I think that's pretty interesting to see, again, that in terms of race and ethnicity, this study area is more diverse than the city, but really matches the state. Just highlighting these tracks again, remembering which one's which, because the next slide doesn't have this map on it. Looking at 509 in the south east, and tract 508 is to the north and 507 to the west. So I just wanted to point out these, looking at these tracks again, in terms of 509, that was the one in the southeast. That one is the most diverse, I would say. Whereas 507 is matching, again, the state and county, and 508 actually kind of matches the city. So you've got these three census tracts that match, that are very similar to the county, the city, and the state. So just something I wanted to highlight there that was pretty interesting to learn. Housing tenure. So this is looking at renter versus owner. Again, it's funny to say, but the study area and the state are very similar in terms of renter and owner. Statewide, you're about 60%, 63% owner and 37% renter, whereas the study area is 60 and 40. So again, very similar. Citywide, you have high ownership. Edmonds has pretty high ownership at 71%, which is a good thing. It's also good to have some good, rental housing in the mix too. So looking at that from this perspective of the study area is interesting, that again matches the state. Looking at those tracks, again, 508, so this most northern track, which is actually primarily in the unincorporated area, is going to be more owner than renter. 507, which is this one here, is going to be about, was going to have almost 50-50, but about 56% owner. And then 509, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprising, has the highest amount of rental housing. So you're looking at actually having more renters in tract 509 than you do ownership. So there is quite a bit of rental properties in there, whether it's apartments or single family homes that are being rented. So just something to note there is that tract 509 stands out, I think, from the rest of the three. Also shows up kind of in the poverty level, but this is a good news. The state has, I would say, higher poverty issues than the study area as a whole. And frankly, the study area is not much different than the state in terms of your poverty level. One thing to note is your median income is $90,000 a year, which is very, very healthy. A lot of cities that I work in, you're looking at a lot lower number than that. So I would say that's a good thing that the city and the study area are healthy in terms of their ratio poverty level. When looking at the census tracts, though, tells a little bit different story. Again, that 509 tract that was primarily rental, over 50% rental, has a little bit more of a I would say ratio to poverty level issue. Still not too bad, at 11% just above and 11% below. But again, that's twice the census tract 507. So that is kind of interesting to see. Those two tracks are very close, but again, almost double in 509 versus 507. So just another food for thought item there to show. We looked at median home income, and actually this was interesting because we looked at it in two different ways. Now this was the census data, and it was showing that the income, oh no, I mentioned this already, excuse me. We looked at this income level, but I think your again, income level in 509 is going to be substantially lower, almost $30,000 lower than 507. But in terms of the city area, study area in the city, very similar. We used Zillow to look at the median home value. The census data we looked at was quite old. It was, I think, 2 or 3 years old. And as you know, the housing market's changed quite dramatically then. So just trying to get some updated data. The two zip codes we looked at in this case were shown here in the map. You can see the green is 98020. The pink is 98026. In terms of home value, the city average is about $772,000 for median home value, which is a high number. But again, for where you are in your region, that's not too crazy a number. The zip code in the green, 98020, has even higher levels, and there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Some of it's being on the water, potentially having views, and then but again, the zip code 98026 is really not that much lower than your citywide average. So those are good numbers to look at there as well. So that was just an overall snapshot of your basic demographics. I want to point out that that's not something that's really hard to find. These numbers are based off census numbers that we're all allowed to go grab off the internet. So I just wanted to run that by you guys. Also mention that this is just the start of this existing community needs report that we're working on. So we still have to dive into parks and open space opportunities. We're going to dig up all the crime statistics, building age and condition, look at traffic accidents and things like that. So as much data as we can dig up as part of this, we're looking for. Next time we do have a public meeting, we'll be open to presenting all those results as well. So I think we're going to open it up to the polling questions now. Cassandra, let's try and go through this.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so this will work. What we're going to do is I'm going to put the slide up. It's going to list the questions. I'm going to read them. And then Cassandra will activate a little poll, and you'll get a pop-up on the screen, and you're allowed to choose either one or multiple. Some of the questions have multiple choice. And we'll go through this. There's not too many of them. I'd point out that this is not a scientific survey. We're just trying to get some general feel of what you all think of the area as we get moving on this interesting project. So this is just a warm-up question. It's always fun. This is one of my favorite ones to ask. So if you could have a superpower, what would you choose? Would you choose the ability to fly, to read minds, or time travel, invisibility, superhuman strength, to know the future, or I just like life the way it is? You don't need a superpower. So hopefully we'll have a little question pop up. And hopefully if you're a panelist, I would prefer that you did not vote, or you can't vote. So you'll just see the questions pop up and then go away once Cassandra closes the poll. So take a little time to practice on this one. I'm going to give you probably about 15 seconds on each of these as we move through them. And we should be getting about, I'm hoping about 10 to 15.
We should have 13 right now. We have 9 of 13 responded.
Okay. If anyone else would like to respond, now's the time before we move on to the next question. This one's not as important because it's a warm up. So let's just pop to the next one. And here's your results. Interesting. Everyone likes to do something different. So everyone either wants to be able to fly or invisible. And one person just doesn't want a superpower, which is just fine. I get it. Sometimes they can be more trouble than they're worth. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is a real question, not just a warm-up. But what do you like most about this area? And you can choose more than one, so that's important. A would be convenient retail shopping. B is good transit. C is housing options. D, the feeling of safety. E would be the outdoor amenities, maybe parks or open space. F is other. So what do you like most about the area? I have some opinions, but I will keep them to myself for now. So if you could just pick one and we'll move on to the next.
Looks like we have 2 more people left. If those 2 people want, oh, 1 more person left
Okay.
to respond. A couple more seconds for that. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead and close it.
And the next question.
Oh, we're looking at results.
Oh, results, sorry. So interesting. This group is they like everything different, but so across the board, convenient retail shopping, good transit, housing option drops a little bit, feeling of safety, outdoor amenities, and other. So maybe when we get to the Q&A, I might ask for a few people to type in some of the others in terms of what they like. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, this one's opposite. Instead of what you like, it's kind of what concerns you. And again, you can choose more than one. So A would be lack of affordable housing options. B would be crime and safety. C, lack of parks and open space. D, it's unsafe for walking and biking. E, it has outdated buildings. F, there's speedy traffic. G would be tree canopy loss. H is other, or nothing. I love it the way it is. So what concerns you most about the area? And again, you can pick more than one. How's it looking, Cassandra?
We are 8 of 13 right now, 9 of 13.
Everyone's thinking about their responses. I appreciate that.
While people are speaking or thinking, I'll mention that our acting police chief, Michelle Bennett, I believe, has joined the meeting as well.
Great. Thank you, Michelle, for joining.
All right, we're at 12 of 13, Scott.
Okay, let's go.
All right. Here's our results.
Okay. So number one concern, crime and safety. Second will be traffic. So that's actually really interesting. Those are, I mean, really all of these issues are things we'll be looking at in the plan, but crime and safety has come up before. And a lot of the infrastructure work we're doing is trying to help with that traffic and safety, frankly. So thank you, good input. There were no others and no one loves it just the way it is. So that's, I guess, why we're here. All right. The next question, this is about where you live. So we're trying to figure out, get an idea of the participants that are here, where they live. And this one, I don't believe you can pick more than one. So you do just get one choice. And A would be area 1, which is the northwest corner. Area 2 is the northeast corner. Area 3 is the southeast corner, and area 4 is the southwest corner. So if you pick one of those, or if you don't live in those, or you live somewhere else in Edmonds, let us know that, or somewhere else outside Edmonds. Just let us know where you live, or work, I suppose.
All right.
Okay.
Looking good.
Sounds good. Okay. So interesting, we have one person that lives in area 2, 4 people that live in area 3, 3 people that live in area 4, and no one in area 1. And then the remainder live elsewhere in Edmond. So everyone here lives in the city. That's great. So we appreciate you being here and giving us your input and listening to our presentation. And the 6th polling question. So I alluded to this a little bit in the beginning, but you know, we've been calling it the Highway 99 area. And that's a fine name. There's been other ideas floated. I know that the market has been kind of termed the Uptown Market, so that name has been used. There's other names that potentially have been brought up. So we're trying to figure out what a good name for this is, or maybe we just stick with Highway 99 area and go with that. So this question is around kind of the branding for this plan in this area. So if you prefer Highway 99 area, that would be A. B would be a different name, or C, you're just unsure. Trying to get a gauge on what people like us to call it.
A couple more seconds. A couple people haven't voted yet.
Okay. Last chance to prefer something or not.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. So the majority of people would like a different name. Okay, so that's interesting. So 3/4 to 1/4 would prefer it to be a different name. Thank you. Well, it sounds like we should probably explore something different. Great. And the 7th polling question. This is about priorities. This is another multiple choice one where you can pick more than one. But what are your highest priorities for the area? What do you think is most important? More parks and open space, improved community connectivity, neighborhood cleanup in terms of trash, graffiti, other buildings that need help, creating a feel of safety, increasing housing options, redevelopment of aging buildings or development of vacant areas, frankly, for that matter, reduction of noise, nuisances, other, or nothing. You love it the way it is. What are your highest priorities? Don't be shy to pick more than one if you feel like that's something that is important. All right, a few more seconds.
All right, got about 3 people left, 2 people left if you would like to vote. A few more seconds. Go 3, 2, 1.
All right. So interesting. The parks plan. They want more parks and open space, but who doesn't really? I mean, honestly. So, and then number 2 is safety, and that came up as a concern as well. So, the neat thing about this is I feel like some of the things that were concerns are also priorities, and that's going to be, that's a good way to make alignments on what we need to tackle first. Community connectivity was up there as well as neighborhood cleanup. So thank you for those. And I think that would be it. So I want to just let everyone know that the polling results we're going to make available on the website, so you can see all those results. I will post the URL for the website once we get later to the meeting. I have another slide, but I wanted to go over kind of the project timeline. So we've started this project this spring in terms of an internal project, kickoff, data gathering, finalization of the scope and schedule and all that fun stuff that you have to do when you do one of these projects. But right now we're in the summer, and this is our first public engagement opportunity, and it's the open house that you're joining us with and the existing conditions. We're going to wrap up those existing conditions in the next probably 3 to 4 weeks and really start working on drafting a community renewal plan. We'll come back to the public probably November, I think is what we're shooting, October, November, with some draft elements of the plan for you to react to. So that'll be a time when you have a little bit more to react to. I know this is really just kind of some information gathering and letting you know what we're up to, but please try and attend that meeting this winter in October, November. Then what we'll do is we'll take that input and we'll use that to refine that draft community renewal plan. And hopefully next spring we'll have another public event rolling out the plan. Is there a place for them to type the questions, and then we will?
Yeah, there's a Q&A box down at the bottom of the screen. If they open that up, they should be able to type questions in there.
Okay. And we just, if there aren't any, that's fine too, but we wanted to give anyone an opportunity at this point to type in a question, and then you have all the directors and staff and mayor here to answer any questions about this particular project if you have those questions, or if you wanted to chime in on some of the polling or maybe some of the other answers that you said rather than picking one of the actual questions. So it's your opportunity now to give us your questions. And we'll wait a few minutes to get your thoughts together. Looks like we might have one or two. I think I can address some of these. I can see them if that's the easiest thing for me to do. I'll do that. So there's a couple questions about, how come there's not very many people on the call. This has been an ongoing thing, not just in Edmonds, but on a lot of these meetings that I do in many cities. Is trying to get people to come to the online meetings is pretty tough, especially for planning. We're going to do our best to get the word out. There's another question that says, can we do more engagement prior to the fall? And I think the answer is yes. I think there's ways that we can do it without this type of meeting. Again, in the fall, I think it's going to be even better because I'm hoping we can have an in-person meeting rather than a webinar like this. And we can do some other things to entice people to show up in person and hopefully get higher turnout. Another thing is if you have friends or family or coworkers that may not know about this, we really want to rely on some of those groups I mentioned before, partners that will help us to get the word out. And if there's groups that we can tie into, if there is a neighborhood group or a business meeting that's going to meet and they want us to come give a quick presentation, we're happy to do that. So engagement's big on our list, and I think we're going to have to do our best to keep trying hard to get more people involved. That would be my answer. Go ahead.
Scott, we have a question from Nathan Sugg regarding potential improvements to accessing Lake Ballinger from the Edmonds side. If Angie's still with us, she might be the best to answer that question. I believe that's a Parks property.
Sure, go ahead, Angie.
Yeah, I would imagine that, talking about kind of the city of Edmonds portion of Lake Ballinger, kind of on the west and southwest side of that. We are in communications with Montlake Terrace and their Parks Department and their projects. We're aware of their improvements this year happening. And that park site is pretty significant actually as well. I think the pros plan that we're working on will start to identify a partnership with the city of Montlake Terrace in looking at combined improvements to the Lake Ballinger area park in its entirety and access to the lake. We technically have only a small right-of-way that goes into the lake, a little boat launch in the city of Edmonds, but we do have the interurban trail that runs north-south along that neighborhood. And kind of the southern terminus of that is in Matt Bay Ballinger Park. So we have some opportunities, I think, with the city of Montlake Terrace. We know there's a need for additional parks and open space and green space in the Highway 99 area. It's pretty easy to see that when you look at a general map of the area and the geographic distribution of parks and recreation facilities, as well as programming. So we are aware that it is a need, and the PROS plan, I think, will help us refine some of that and help identify hopefully some steps in the future to start to remedy that.
Thank you, Angie.
All right, thank you. Scott, Adrian has a question regarding what can we do about abandoned buildings?
Excellent question. That's one of the primary reasons we're looking at the community renewal plan. This plan will hopefully give us some tools that the city doesn't currently have available to deal with some of those issues. So a long story short is that yes, this plan will address some of those issues with abandoned buildings, and we're very aware of where they are and those issues. And I think part of the reason that this plan is happening is because we want to figure out how to deal with that. So as the mayor mentioned, there's opportunities for public-private partnerships. So maybe those abandoned buildings, we can get in touch with some of those owners. We can, as a city, we can partner with them to get something good that benefits not just the owner, but the community at large. So I would say that this plan is what we can do about those buildings.
And then the next question we have is from Connie. She says the area is pretty neglected. Will the plans add medians with plantings and new street lighting? And
Sounds like
maybe
me.
Phil, yeah, that sounds like a Phil question.
Well, yes, I mean, our transportation plan certainly scopes out a lot of steps to improve the entire transportation system, not just vehicles and transit, but also pedestrians and bicycles and other non-motorized traffic, both looking at having better opportunities to cross 99 back and forth. We are putting in a pedestrian activated hawk signal as part of that median project, which will go in someplace pretty close to the community health center. So adding one more mid-block place where you can cross 99 safely as a pedestrian, bicyclist, or otherwise. And then at each intersection, we'll have some property takes on the corners where we can improve our ramps and facilities and our ADA access. We're looking at where we don't have effective street lighting, certainly adding that. And if we can find the money, we'd like to underground the power to really, and the rest of the overhead utilities to, increase the aesthetic feeling of the entire corridor, warm it up a bit. The median that we're going to be putting in is going to have around 166 planted trees in it. That will soften the appearance of Highway 99 from the sort of harsh wasteland it can sometimes take on the look of, all hard surface and so forth. At least we'll have some materials growing in that. And then the frontage improvements, the sidewalks themselves, we hope to be widened, that planter strips get put in there, that we have some places working with Parks and Recreation in their PROS plan, some small and maybe sometimes not quite as small areas along the Highway 99 corridor itself where you can get some a chance to sit, relax, not right next to the curb, but far enough away where it'd be comfortable and welcoming. And all those things can be part of the plan. The frontage improvements can be very expensive, of course. We feel already the development pressure coming. We've got 2 or 3 very large projects that are have just nearing completion in one case, about to start construction in another, and that's going through permitting now. And we think that kind of development pressure is going to continue, just like it did in Shoreline. So we should be able to get a lot of these frontage improvements built as part of these redevelopment projects. So we will certainly focus on doing that. and using the least amount of public dollars to make that happen. That's going to be a balance, obviously, but yeah, we absolutely are interested in making those kinds of improvements, and they are part of the plan.
Great, thank you, Phil. And then a couple questions here that deal with walkability. One, Norma wants to know any city plans for increasing walkability. And then Adrian asked, how about neighborhood sidewalks and lighting? So I'm assuming Adrian is speaking more about some of the side streets in the neighborhoods that are around there. Phil, maybe you could answer a question about, you know, how the city is reevaluating sidewalks and when they're required.
Well, I tried to address it along Highway 99, and of course the side streets that connect there are very important too, and a lot of them don't have sidewalks, some do. I think we've now got pretty good focus throughout the city of Edmonds, and that applies in the Highway 99 area as well, to try to build sidewalks, especially shorter missing segments in an existing sidewalk. So you have a functional sidewalk from one end to the other. There's a lot of places where you might be able to walk for 3 blocks, and then there's 2 blocks with nothing, and then another 3 blocks. And it's key to walkability to go in and pick up those missing pieces, so you have a continuous corridor to be able to walk it. That's been our focus so far. I will say this, though, that throughout Edmonds, we've got miles and miles and miles of streets, especially local streets, that have no sidewalk on them at all. And if the traffic volumes are low enough, that's not necessarily an uncomfortable situation to walk in if the streets aren't incredibly narrow. It'd be great if we had a sidewalk on every street, but I think we're realistically a long ways away from that. But on these major corridors that connect with Highway 99, we certainly would like to see, during this planning horizon, sidewalks added on at least one side of each of those streets. And we'll do our best to make that happen.
And I would just add that in terms of lighting, and those are also safety issues and crossings that we will look at as part of this plan as well.
And Scott, maybe this next one's for you, from Kevin. How will the process prioritize housing development versus business commerce development, or the combination of the two?
Yeah, I think that this plan doesn't focus on housing versus business commerce. So I think you're right. It is probably a combination of the two. Part of this is that when we did the original plan and we were looking at some of the redevelopment work and where we could have redevelopment occur, a lot of that was mixed use. So it wasn't just business and commerce, but it would be housing above business and commerce. So I think there's opportunities for that. Right now there's a need for affordable rental housing, affordable housing period, everywhere in the state. So I think looking at that and finding opportunities for housing is going to be important. I think a lot of that was done in that original plan. So now this is going to be more strategic as where specifically are we going to figure out where we can have those types of developments that'll bring prosperity to the community, both in housing and commerce.
Great. I don't see any more questions here. If anyone has any last minute questions, I encourage you to submit them now. Otherwise, we could wrap this up here pretty soon and let you know what our next steps are.
You
I want to thank Norma for her comment before we close.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, Norma says.
Norma would like to thank Public Works for the great job that they do. Should be mentioned.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you, Norma. All right. Well, great. I really appreciate those questions. That was very helpful. I told you I was going to put up this URL for the website. I keep pitching this, but if you have family and friends or haven't signed up for the mailing list on the website, please go do that. If you put your email in there, any events we have, any new information that comes out, you will get sent an email, so you'll be notified what's going on. If, like I said, if you have people please let them know about this so they can go there. We'd like to have more people involved in these meetings, so the more we can get, the better. So I just thank you for your time, and please stay involved in this. It's an exciting time for this area. And I think this is going to be great moving forward.
Can I just add, on our city website, it's pretty easy to find contact information for all of us, directors as well. And, you know, our phones work really well. And so call us with any really specific questions that you think apply to our area. I think I speak for all of us directors in that way. So either call the planning process and leave your comments and questions with them, or you can call us directly too, whatever's easiest.
Great. Thank you. I guess I can close this, or Shane, if you're still around, you could close the meeting. Either way, I'm happy to do so.
Looks like Shane has stepped away.
All right.
As her final act on the job, she just dropped the mic and retired off into the sunset.
Good for her. She deserves it. All right. Well, I'll close the meeting. Mayor, directors, thank you for being here and helping present. Public participants, again, thank you very much for your time. I know it's an hour of your life that you've given to the city and your community. So thank you for that. Please stay involved, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Scott and Cassandra.
Thanks all.